have a daughter, so how do you explain George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and the police to your daughter? And then my follow-on would be to talk a little bit about your book, Born on the Water. Because when I think of just the opening and the assignment, it's in the book, it starts with an assignment of a little girl having to tell her family tree essentially, and can go back 3 generations. If you are a Black American who is a descendant of slaves, this is a very common experience, because you can tell about your grandparents, maybe your great-grandparents. I had an aunt that I knew her parents were born into slavery, and she was very old, but there are no documents that help you really document all the pieces beyond that. So how did you, I felt like you were writing the book for me, for my children, for every teacher I've ever had, but who were you really writing to when you wrote that?
I was. I mean, that is who I was writing to. So Born on the Water, I describe it as an origin story for Black American descendants of slavery. And I wrote it because I was that little girl who got that assignment of being tasked with, writing a report on your native country and drawing your native flag, and being the Black kid in the class who's like, what do I do? And then all these years later, when I had my own daughter, who is a New York City public school student, she goes to a mostly Black school, but our Black population in New York is very diverse. So when they got that assignment in their class, her classmates were drawing the flag of Trinidad, or the flag of Jamaica, or the flag of the Dominican Republic, and my child is like, what do I draw? And it's just one more time where you feel a distance between yourself and the rest of the people who live in your country, and where you feel like we don't have a history, right? Like, we're taught that our history begins with slavery, when clearly it doesn't, and there's nothing shameful about that history, but our history doesn't begin in slavery. So I wrote that book to give us an origin story. And so the book has the girl come home and tell her grandmother that she got this assignment, and she was ashamed because she didn't know what to do, and her grandmother sat her down and told her about her people who came from Angola, which were the first Africans who were sold into Point Comfort, Virginia, came from Angola. And the full third of the book takes place on the continent, because you shouldn't have to do this, but when you're Black, it's like you just have to let people know we're human like everyone else. Of course we had knowledge and learning and relationships and science and skills. Of course we had all of that, but we're not taught about that. And then it traces the Middle Passage. Nicholas Smith, who is, again, the illustrator, we don't pull punches in the book. Part of it is really hard and really dark, but that's our story. And then it talks about how when we came here, we built a new people, and how we became the perfecters of this democracy. And it ends with the little girl, it's my essay. I end my democracy essay on that. The little girl going back to school and drawing the American flag, because that's her country, and that's the country that her ancestors built, and the country that she will build too. So that's who this is for. It's for every Black American descendant of slavery who felt like we didn't have an origin story, or that our origin story wasn't as good or powerful as anyone else, that we do have a right to claim the country that we built. And so that's why I wrote that book.
Thank you.